Love lives here.
So good morning. Good to see all of you. So there's a phrase that we hear a lot in spiritual communities, and that phrase is, everyone is welcome. And I believe that most communities do mean this sincerely, but there's a difference between being welcomed and actually being able to belong. And here we know what? That we belong, right? Because belonging, my beloveds, requires access. Not just spiritual access, but practical access, emotional access, cultural and economic access, physical access, and social access. This is part of the reason why we moved from our old building, because there was not physical access for everybody to access the building. This is why we're still in that place of transition, of opening up to find a new space where our beloveds like James, hobbling in on his crutches, have access without stairs. Hey, James, right? But the place that we need to have is access, as a space can say, come as you are, while still being designed in a way that quietly communicates, but not really you, right? Come as you are, but not really you. It's one of these. Come, 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 stay, stay, stay away, come, 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 stay away, right? And this matters deeply in spiritual community, doesn't it? Because inclusion, my beloveds, is how love becomes visible. You see, love is not merely an idea. Love is an architecture. It's a policy. It's a practice. It's who gets heard. It's what gets considered. It's who gets protected and who gets represented. The master teacher, Jesus the Christ, understood this. Again and again, he moved people and he moved society, or he moved toward people's society pushed to the margins. The tax collectors, the women, foreigners, people with illnesses, the poor, the socially rejected. And what upset the religious establishment at the time wasn't simply his theology. What it really was his inclusion. And if we're honest, exclusion has always been dressed up in spiritual, political, legal, and moral language. Because inclusion threatens systems that benefit from exclusion. Inclusion threatens systems that benefit from exclusion. Sometimes that exclusion is loud. Sometimes it's subtle. Sometimes it sounds like, well, that's just the system. That's tradition. That's just how things work. That's the way we've always done it. But systems, my beloveds, are designed by people. Systems are designed by people. Therefore, systems can be redesigned by people. Today, March 17th, is the 72nd anniversary of the landmark unanimous Supreme Court decision in Brown versus the Board of Education, Topeka, Kansas, ruling that segregated schools are unconstitutional. This was then followed by the Civil Rights Act of 1957, which was then strengthened further by the Civil Rights Act of 1964. But it wasn't until after March 7th, 1965, a Sunday known as Bloody Sunday in Selma, Alabama, that the Voting Rights Act was passed on August 6th, 1965. 77 to 19 in the Senate, 333 to 85 in the House. A wide margin by anybody's count. It wasn't until that day that African Americans were fully included in being able to exercise the right to vote, their right to vote as citizens of this country. 100 years after the end of the Civil War. And this week, we saw yet another example of how systems can be manipulated to reduce representation and silence voices. Republicans in Tennessee moved to divide Memphis into 3 congressional districts in a way that critics argue weakens black political representation and eliminates the single Democratic stronghold. This comes in the wake of the Supreme Court's 6-3 decision in Louisiana versus Calais on April 29th, 2026, which weakened the protections connected to the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Now, regardless of party affiliation, we should all be concerned that any time representation is diluted for communities that have historically had to fight to be heard in the first place, because accessibility is justice in action. And voting access is accessibility. Representation is accessibility. Being able to participate fully in democracy is accessibility. This is not separate from spirituality. In fact, it is spirituality. In Science of Mind, our core concept number 5, we teach this is a universe of wholeness, allness, oneness. Spirit is a transcendent, perfect whole that in its infinite inclusivity harmoniously embraces all seeming opposites. That's a radical statement. And it means that the nature of reality itself is inclusive. The nature of the universe itself, the nature of spirit itself, the nature of God itself is inclusive. Not exclusive, not fragmented, not divided into worthy and unworthy, not separated into us and them. Spirit embraces the whole. And if spirit embraces the whole, then every system built on exclusion contradicts the deeper spiritual truth of oneness. Let me say that again. If spirit embraces the whole, then every system built on exclusion contradicts the deeper truth of oneness. And this doesn't mean that we erase differences. It means we stop treating differences as separation, because unity is not sameness. Unity is the recognition that every person belongs within the larger wholeness of life. And if we truly believe in oneness, then we must care about who has access to participation, dignity, representation, and belonging. Spirituality asks us, who has access to power? Who gets included in the decision making? Whose humanity is honored? Whose voice matters? These are spiritual questions, because spirituality is ultimately concerned with how we relate to one another, how we embody love, and whether we recognize the sacred worth of every human being, of every person, of all life. If spirituality was only a private meditation, positive thinking, or personal peace within, then it becomes disconnected from the real human experience. Every major spiritual tradition teaches that the inner life and the outer life are interconnected. What we believe spiritually eventually shows up in how we structure community, how we share power, how we treat people, and how we define belonging. If we say all beings, all people are expressions of the divine, then it becomes spiritually relevant to ask who is treated as if their voice carries less value. If we teach unity, then it matters spiritually when systems divide people into insiders and outsiders. If we affirm human dignity, then accessibility matters because exclusion communicates intentionality or unintentionality. Exclusion is always communicating, intentionally or unintentionally. It communicates. This space was not designed with you in mind. That's why questions like, who can participate? Who can afford to participate? Who feels emotionally safe? Who gets represented? These are spiritual questions. They reveal whether our values are actually embodied. In The Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes repeatedly teaches the spiritual truth must express itself in daily life. It has to express itself in daily life, in our institutions, in our relationships, in society. Otherwise, spirituality remains abstract. It remains a theory. A church down the street can preach love while unconsciously centering on only one culture. A workplace can talk about equality while interrupting women and dismissing people of color. A democracy can claim freedom while limiting representation. Spiritual awareness, my beloveds, asks us to notice these contradictions. Not to shame people, but to awaken consciousness. Because exclusion is often invisible to the people least affected by it. Someone without mobility challenges may never notice stairs without a ramp. Someone financially secure may not notice that a retreat, a workshop, or a program is inaccessible to some people. Someone whose identity has been normalized may not notice who constantly has to adapt to fit in. Spirituality, my beloveds, helps us expand our perception. It moves us from how do I feel to how are we experiencing this together. The shift is deeply spiritual because it moves consciousness from separation toward interconnectedness. And in Science of Mind specifically, if truly is only one life expressing through all people, then diminishing another person's access, diminishing another person's dignity, diminishing another person's participation, diminishes our collective expression of that one life. These questions are spiritual because they reveal whether our love is theoretical or embodied. They ask us, are we creating communities that reflect unity? Or are we simply talking about it? Ernest Holmes wrote, "We must come to see the divine being in all people is the same divine being in us." And so if this is true, then every barrier that we create against another person is ultimately a barrier against ourselves. Every act of exclusion fractures our awareness of unity, and every act of inclusion restores it. This does not mean that we will all agree. We won't. But we can still ask spiritual questions about the systems that we participate in. Do they increase belonging? Do they widen participation? Do they honor dignity? Do they make room for more voices or fewer? And it's up to us to remove those barriers. Us who understand and know and practice what unity is. Because removing barriers reveals that unity. Like the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, inclusion is not charity. It is correction. It is recognizing that some people have been carrying unnecessary obstacles for generations, while others moved through systems with ease and never even noticed that the barriers existed. Our spirituality helps us notice who can enter the building easily, who can afford to participate, who feels emotionally safe here, whose culture is centered, whose experience is dismissed, who gets interrupted, who gets believed, who gets represented. These questions matter, my beloved community, because the beloved community is not built accidentally. It's designed intentionally. Every time you and I widen the circle, we reveal more of God. Every time we make space for another voice, we become more whole. And every time we remove a barrier, we practice love in visible form. That's why inclusion is sacred work, and it's ongoing work. To be honest, none of us gets it perfect. All of us have blind spots. But spiritual maturity is the willingness to keep expanding our awareness instead of defending our comfort. And so I am very proud to say that Riverside Center for Spiritual Living has been designed for inclusion. Everything we do, the way we gather, who we are, how we show up for each other, and how we show up for the community, and how we show up for the world is intentional. It is intentionally inclusive. Are there ways that we can be more inclusive? Absolutely. Absolutely. And the beauty about this community is that there's a willingness to look at it and to work with it and to act upon it and to do so. That is a beautiful, beautiful thing. It is an incredible power of love that we, as this community, Riverside Center for Spiritual Living, express out into the world. It's something that I'm proud of as your senior minister, and it's something that I fully believe that you, as the members and the body of Riverside CSL, should be proud of too. It's something that we have collectively created together with intention to express our oneness, to express our wholeness, and to be the power and presence of love. So I invite you to move over to the tables now for our morning discussion, table discussion here around these three questions. Where have you experienced true belonging in your life? What barriers, visible or invisible, do you notice in communities around you? And how can you help create spaces where more voices are heard and valued this week? My beloveds, the universe itself, as I mentioned earlier, is inclusive. The sun shines on everyone. The breath of life moves through everyone. Spirit withholds itself from no one. And if its spirit excludes no one, then neither can we. Not in our churches, not in our centers, not in our communities, not in our politics, and not in our hearts. We are here to create spaces where every voice matters. Not because diversity is trendy, not because inclusion is politically fashionable, but because unity without inclusion is just a slogan. Real unity requires participation. Real belonging requires access. And real love makes room. And so it is. So I invite our practitioners and core council members to please stand and surround the space as we move into a moment of prayer. So I recognize here and now that there simply is one. And this one is all in all. It is the totality of being, is the totality of life itself. It is the allness, the isness, the fullness. There is nothing but this one. And this one life, this one power, this one presence brought forth all of creation through and as itself. Everything that we know, everything that we see, everything that remains visible or invisible, is a divine expression and impartation of this one life, this one creative being, this one source, this one substance. So therefore I know that the who of who I am must be the divine made manifest. For Spirit could not have created me out of anything but itself. Spirit could not have imbued me with consciousness unless it was the consciousness of Spirit itself. And knowing that this is true of me, I know that this is true of everyone who is gathered here this day and all who walk the planet. Each one of us is a divine expression, a divine manifestation of this one life, which is love, which is joy, which is peace, which is harmony, which is diversity within unity. And so I speak my word for this beloved community, Riverside Center for Spiritual Living, knowing that right where we belong, we are. And right where we are, we belong. We belong to Spirit. We belong to one another. We belong to life itself. We belong to ourselves. And in this belonging, we exclude no one and nothing. For we know that each one is a sister, a brother, a sibling in this one life. Each one is a perfect expression of this one life. And is in coming together, including all, that we recognize that we belong to one another, that we recognize and we experience a greater sense of our individual wholeness within the wholeness of the all in all. And so how beautiful it is to know and to recognize our wholeness, our oneness, our unity, and our diversity within it, because we are so much richer for it. We are blessed by it. We know ourselves in greater, fuller ways because of it. And so we do not see difference as separation. We see difference as a celebration of unity. And so for this knowing, I do give thanks. For this realization in our community, I give thanks. And I release this word now, knowing it is done, knowing it is so, knowing that each one of us is the face of God. I let it be, and so it is. Love widens the circle through me. Okay, here we go. Love widens the circle through me. One more time. Love widens the circle through me. Yes, something wonderful is happening through me right now. It's this thing called love. Love is in my mind. Love is in my body. Love is in everything I do. I am it. I share it. I receive it. And I move love forward. Because love lives. Happy Sunday.